Welcome to Veranex Voices, a podcast where we explore different healthcare and innovation topics through conversation with our subject matter experts. At Veranex, we focus on fueling innovation across the product lifecycle management process, and we have experts in design, engineering, regulatory, preclinical and clinical services, data management, and commercial market access and strategy.
Our goal is to bring all these capabilities under one roof to give our healthcare partners one company that can do it all, from identified opportunity to successful market delivery. For today's conversation, I'm one of three hosts. My name is David Copeland, and I'm a Director of Human-Centered Design with Veranex.
My name is Rae Davel, and I am a design researcher.
My name is Talitha Brenninkmeyer, and I'm a design researcher as well. Today, we have the luck to be joined by Nicolas Borenstein, who is a veterinarian surgeon by training, but more especially co-founder of one of Veranex's different legacy companies called IMMR. He has expertise in preclinical testing and will tell us a bit more about that. Welcome, Nicolas.
Well, thank you, Talitha, and thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks to give me the opportunity to talk a little bit about one of our fields of specialty. Just maybe a word on my background. I'm a veterinary surgeon by training, as you said, and I'm not your typical vet because I've been in research for now a little more than 25 years. And I co-founded with my partner in crime, Luc Baer, this beautiful little company called IMMR that joined Veranex. Very happy to have joined Veranex as a group. As you said, our specialty is preclinical trials. So we are specialists of research on large animals. And we have, I will say, maybe 80 to 90% of what we do is cardiovascular, but the rest is all sorts of other specialties: orthopedics, neuro, urology, cell therapy, gene therapy. We do really a lot of things, but our main specialty is cardiovascular, and that is one of the reasons why we have very early on invested in hybrid rooms.
So, Nicola, thank you for joining us today. This is going to be a great conversation for sure. Let's expound on what you said the last statement there. You talked about a hybrid OR. If you can help us define better a little bit about what the hybrid OR is, and then also what potential benefits it could offer.
Well, hybrid OR means operating room on the one hand, and hybrid. How is it hybrid? It's hybrid because it's the best of both worlds. It's the best of the interventional kind of suite. It's your typical cath lab, but at the same time, it's a surgery suite. So you can actually do surgery in there. It's not like, your typical cath lab will be just a place where the interventionalist will maybe put a catheter and through, or a sheath, and through that sheath a catheter, but it's not very surgical. A hybrid room means that you can do both, and you need to do both for some specific types of surgery, typically anything structural heart. So we have been strongly associated with the development, the early days of TAVI, transcatheter aortic valve implantation, TAVR in the US and TAVI in Europe. That's one of our little differences, one of many. It really started about 20 years ago when we needed to implant valves in a minimally invasive way, transcatheter, but it cannot be exactly done like many stent in a coronary. It's a large stent, large sheath, large bore. And sometimes you need major cut downs, sometimes a mini sternotomy, mini thoracotomy. So it's both surgery, and at the same time you need imaging. So that's what a hybrid OR is. And the fact is, we have been interested in that matter very early on, and I think that we were probably one of the first large animal labs to be equipped with a world-class type of hybrid OR.
Great background on what a hybrid OR is, and I think it'd be great for us all to understand a little bit about what advantages or benefits that kind of setup would offer, our potential customers.
Well, there are some obvious things. So it's great imaging. That's obviously the first thing. It's great imaging and surgical capability. So you can have your cutlery, you can have the flow dynamics inside the room. So everything is really of surgical grade and at the same time with great imaging. Now, imaging, it's mostly an X-ray based, and it's that C-arm is usually rotational. Because it's rotational, you can go really very easily from one room, one direction to the other, one plane to the other. So you can have the anfas and then maybe the lateral view very easily. It moves quickly. So it's very helpful when you need to have two planes at the same time. So that's one. So image quality and ergonomics. The room is quite special. It has different kinds of screens. You have screens for operator one, looking maybe west, and another set of screens for operator two and three, maybe looking east. And probably that the person who's going to be at the head, maybe the anesthesiologist and probably the sonographer who is going to be doing a transesophageal kind of ultrasound, will also have an image recap of what is going on inside the animal and the patient in general. So you have screens all over the place in those rooms, and so great imaging, ergonomics, many screens. With the screens come the audio video integration, meaning that everything can be recorded, and it is very often recorded, especially the way we work here at Legacy IMMR. And it can be not only recorded, but it can be broadcast. So we can be here working in Paris and have our Chinese friends, clients watching live and telling me what they want me to do. So we can literally be there hands and eyes and give them a lot of feedback. It's not just video, it's audio also, very important. So the headset I'm wearing right now, I have just the same in the OR, and four of us can have it in the OR. Maybe the anesthesia tech, maybe the sonographer, maybe the second surgeon, all of us can have those headsets, and we can talk with our clients that are abroad. So it's a huge plus. So that audio video integration um, is a big plus. The other thing that I have not mentioned in the ergonomic benefit of those rooms is that the tables are very long, almost 4 meters long, and so you can have your patient animal in the middle of the table, and then up towards the head, maybe you can have another meter and a half, and maybe another 2 meters down at the feet. And knowing that for interventional procedures, you need lots of catheters, big catheters. Let me take an example. The mitra clip, one of the many new structural heart devices that are out there, they require large sheaths that are very long, and you cannot just have your typical surgery room and surgery table for that. You need a long and ergonomic table that you can move in all directions. You can have tilt, you can have cradle, you can do all sorts of things. Another benefit of those rooms is that you can move your C-arm in one end or the other end of the room, and you end up with a almost a classic type of surgical suite. It doesn't have to be um, strictly a hybrid room. The hybrid room can be basically anything of both ends. It can be a cath lab, and it can be also a surgery room if needs be. So for us, it's useful because sometimes we want to do only surgery in those rooms, and it's large. It's of course I'm French, so I cannot for the life of me I cannot speak in square feet, so it would have to be square meters. But the room is typically 50 square meters, so it's quite large, and you can have up to 7-10 people in the room if needs be. You can have also cardiopulmonary bypass machine and the perfusionist in the room. It's very comfortable, let's put it this way. So for us, it's made a world of difference. And when we started about 10 years ago, we thought, oh, maybe this is overkill. Maybe we're just thinking, are our clients going to be interested enough? Is that going to be, or is it too much? And truth be told, 6 months after using it, we obviously saw that we would need a second one because everyone was in love with it. So not only do we have one nice OR, one nice hybrid OR, out of the 6 ORs that we have, 3 are hybrid ORs. And we have prepared the box, so to speak, for the fourth hybrid OR to come probably 10 to 12 months from now.
You were speaking earlier about the capabilities you have as far as clients interacting across geographies. So your example was if you have a client in China, they can still be talking to you directly while you're in the OR. Are there ever occasions where you would still encourage a client to come in person to the space as opposed to observing remotely?
We love to have our clients with us in the OR. I'll give you an example. For the past 3 days, I've had a whole Israeli group. They could do what we did in Israel. They're relatively well served. There are good labs. Um, I don't think there's a lab out there that has that many hybrid rooms, but more importantly, what they find is the partnership, and the partnership works even better when they're here. They were asking questions, they were pointing to things, they were asking me to do a special move, not to do another one. We were then debriefing. All of that is a lot more easy when people are here. And so, yes, absolutely. And I had a whole group along in the OR with me. It's not because we have that integration and that audio video integration that we don't like to have people locally. But there is another benefit, sort of a hidden benefit to this audio video integration. It means that instead of having 10 people in the OR with us, it can be just 5. And just there, we cut off our carbon footprint by 50%. It may sound like, oh, is it so important? Well, it is. It is important. And this is, of course, we all have to make efforts, and there's a lot more we could do. Something that we have done with our previous financial officer, who was very particular about global warming and being respectful and sustainability. He ordered a carbon footprint assessment of the company, and the first thing that we could do to really dramatically diminish the footprint was just to have less guests. Instead of having groups of 10 people, 5 people. Instead of having 5 people, maybe 2, 3. That's very easy to do. And so the people that stay in their own place can watch remotely. And it is the first time with a group from Scandinavia that we'll be starting to work with very soon, like in 2 weeks, that they have brought it up themselves. This is something that I had not heard. I didn't even promote the idea. They came up with it. So, it's I think it's one of those nice hidden benefits.
I'm curious because you mentioned the benefit of having that AV, so audio video technology integration with hybrid ORs. Where do you see this integration of hybrid ORs with this technology influencing current ORs in the real world practice as well?
Well, I think that this is, in general, the fact that you can broadcast has become important in general because, okay, because it's difficult to have enough experts. And maybe the uber specialist of whatever that little aspect of surgery cannot be in 3 places at the same time, but he can be at home, or in his own hospital, do his own surgery, and in between 2 cases, he can do exactly the same as what we do right now, and broadcast and see what others do in other facilities and give them advice. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is it's a lot easier to have a specialist sort of watch what you're doing real time and tell you, no, don't go there. This is a dangerous spot. Go left, go right. It's I'm not saying it's the best way, but it's the easiest and probably the most cost-effective way, rather than having that person having to fly over to the other side of the planet to do the surgery. And I think during COVID, that has, during the pandemic, people have learned how to live with um, this level of supervision that they can get from experts in remote places.
You mentioned that purpose-built facility and features, that you put in place there. But I'm trying to understand a little bit about comparing it to real-world experience, or what we maybe more clients may be exposed to in typical kind of OR settings. Is there a difference in the workflow or tools that you do use?
You mean in a hybrid OR versus?
Exactly. You're in your purpose-built sort of space. I'm curious about how well it maybe maps to the real world, but I'm just curious a little bit about the different sort of in workflow or tools that you may be using within your space.
Okay, so because we are working on animals on the one hand, because also we are doing so many different projects that may be tricuspid, that may be mitral, that may be orthopedics, that may be neuro, that may be all sorts of things. We wanted to keep our room flexible. We did not want to have, ergonomically speaking, a room that would condemn us to stay at the right femoral and watch a big, large screen where everything was. That doesn't work. We wanted to have double screens that we could swap from one direction to the other, and have one in direction, another in another direction, and swap the whole table the other way around whenever we'd be working here or there. And there's always a bit of a process with a new client and a new project to figure out what the best way to do it is. In most of the projects that we have, we investigate and validate the device itself in vivo and see how it behaves, and whether the body hurts the device, and whether the device can hurt the body, so to speak. Uh, then there is the procedure itself. So one, I will open here and go through whatever the iliac vein. From the iliac vein, I'll go to the right atrium. From right atrium, I'll do a transeptal to go to left atrium, and then left ventricle. All of that is step by step procedure. How do I see this? And there's a validation in parallel to the validation of the device. There is the procedure itself that has to be validated. And of course, there's also the validation of the delivery system itself. So there's lots of different things and aspects. You don't you want to have some leeway. You need some freedom in that room to go one way or the other. So that's how we set it up.
How does this impact the service we can provide our clients during the preclinical stages of their product journey to market?
Well, I think it helps them in many ways. The first is that there is a little bit of a show business aspect to what we do. An OR in Britain is called a theater. There is a reason for that. Um, there's something happening in that environment where it is a bit staged. There is a choreography. There's an artistic side to it, and surely when new clients come, and just clients in general, and they want to assess a new therapy, a new device, it has to be presented to the world in the best environment possible. And not only that, but also an environment that looks exactly like what is going to be used in humans at the very least. So you don't want to do research on animals with old equipment that might have been given from a hospital or whatever. You want top-notch equipment, exactly the same as what you would find in a human OR, and that's how the results are going to be presented. So not only does it look cool, but it's trustworthy, and we know that we haven't skewed the results because the imaging was poor or something of that sort. So I think it's great to bring them solid, robust data, one, and two, to be convincing for investors, convincing for their fellow physicians, and just to convince themselves that they have a good product.
You've mentioned that there is a breadth of different types of devices you use, different setups, a lot more flexibility, way larger operating tables. I'd be curious, because it's so different from maybe a traditional OR or angio suite, does the use of these devices in a hybrid OR require additional training for the proceduralists that use them?
Well, certainly, it certainly does. It doesn't take very long if you know a bit about imaging, but the typical people that interact in a hybrid OR, especially physicians, it is rare to find one person that knows, the jack of all trades, that will be good at imaging and good at surgery and good at whatever. In what we do, that is sort of veterinary surgery for research, and in particular in the cardiovascular field, we need to be very hybrid ourselves. So we here at Legacy IMMR have now 20 veterinarians, and 10 of which are specialists in all those fields. So our vet surgeons are not just surgeons per se, they do the surgery, but they do also the angio, and they know how to deal with the machine and the OR itself, and they also do the echo, the ultrasound, or maybe intracardiac ultrasound, or maybe transesophageal ultrasound. So we are very keen on having specialists here that are trained in all those fields. But in general, just knowing how to use the hybrid OR itself, the table, all those buttons, and that takes a little while. Now, why did we not invest in the latest hybrid OR equipment that came out last year? We will soon. But why did we not? Because one, the imaging quality it has not improved dramatically, to be very honest. But I wanted our younger colleagues to be able to get it, and to be trained on the room number 1. It's the same as room number 3 and the same as room number 4. So they know how to use it all. And in about 3 to 4 months, we get our young veterinary surgeons being able to use any of those rooms. Now, they will, get more knowledge, and it's like a car. You get a little better with time. You turn with it's smoother, and maybe your engine work more smoothly. But basically, in a couple of months, people are trained. And the physicians that come with us, some are trained. Very often, we don't have a physician in the group, or maybe he's or she is only an advisor, but not a specialist per se. So we are their hands, and so we do it for them. Engineers work with us a lot. They don't know how to use those rooms, but so we do it in their stead, and we do it, hand in hand, so to speak.
And when, for instance, our partners or clients that are developing these devices, or the engineers that are with you in the room sometimes, when they're creating these devices and creating training to go with the devices, what is essential in providing this kind of product training for use in a hybrid OR?
Well, if you mean what is the final phase of training, the 4 pillars of our activity are: 1, R&D. So we as I said earlier, we develop new devices and we validate them. 2, we will do our study in a high quality environment, that of the good laboratory practice, with histopathology. And finally, the 4th pillar, and that's very important, is training, physician training. So we need those guys to be trained. Well, of course, they are trained to the use of a hybrid OR, but how do they use those devices? Those devices are usually quite complex. It's not just a catheter and a stent. It's lots of knobs. They're huge. You can hurt your patient with them if you don't use them well, and you need training. And that's the 4th part that we do a lot here with clients from all over the world, basically, before going to first in human. We do that a lot.
Fantastic. I'd like to challenge you a little bit to think about future casting a little bit, right? You've talked a bit about, in angiography or angiosuite, you have a lot of this is, worked very, very well for those kinds of spaces in TAVI and TAVR. But I'm curious about what kind of new opportunities or possibilities you think the hybrid may offer, and then a little bit also about maybe what specialities that maybe are not served currently or not taking advantage of a hybrid OR could benefit from that.
The first that comes to mind really is orthopedics. I think orthopedics or maybe I'll say spine surgery. I mean, spine surgeons today do use a lot of imaging, but there's a whole lot of things that can be done with fusion. Well, where you will have you will register a 3D image that you may have acquired prior, maybe MRI, maybe CT, and directly fuse it with what you see live. That helps you to understand three-dimensionally anatomy and to avoid areas you don't want to mess too much with. So for spinal surgery, of course, it allows you to put your screws in the pedicles just in the right direction. It can be extremely insightful for orthopedics. I think that it will also be very interesting for this fusion aspect for biopsy in general, maybe in thoracic biopsies when you want to take a fragment, a biopsy of the lungs, for instance. You know exactly where you are. And I personally believe that this will, I mean, I'm not saying that it is not used in the current world. I'm just saying it needs to be done more. And we have done it for many years because we're a research institute, but this is something that is going to become a lot more common.
A trend that we often see when new technologies are starting to break into certain fields or be applied by different surgeons is that the surgeons who already are in practice sometimes have a hesitation to adopt technologies that are a little outside of their comfort zone. And so when you're speaking about these newer applications of 3D technologies, do you think that surgeons are ready to adopt, or will there be any sort of hesitation in applying these?
So it's funny you say that. We work in all sorts of fields, and robotics is one of them. And for interventional cardiology, robotics, um, we see that younger interventionalists, younger physicians get it immediately. You know, they probably were they spent a bit of their youth on their computer and all sorts of computer games, and they're very savvy with all of that, and they get it immediately. You know, it takes like a couple of minutes, and boom, they're autonomous on the use of it. Surgeons, you know, my age and above, it's a little more difficult. But something that I have seen, although maybe there's a bias because if they come here, it's probably that they are interested in the first place. But in general, I find that physicians um, are interested in innovation, surgeons even more so. And I think innovation is just part of um, their culture. They know that things have to get better. Some specialties are more known for that than others, certainly cardiology and interventional cardiology. But I have not found that physicians have been reluctant to use new tools. I mean, I see what you're saying, but in general, I've seen people quite excited about it.
So, Nicola, thank you for walking us through this, view into a hybrid OR, basically. I would be excited to hear what you think the future has in store for us, what we can expect from next 5 to 10 years happening in this space.
That's a good question. I think that this technology has become quite mature, and I think that now physicians know how to be both surgeons and a little bit of um, a joint surgeon slash imager kind of specialist. And the technology itself also has become quite mature. But so now it's doing everything a little bit better. Everything that we have already, just doing it a little bit better resolution, maybe smaller cables, maybe improving a little bit the ergonomics. That's what I see as the normal, whatever 10% improvement that you'd get every year. But the thing that probably will have um, a some value in the upcoming years is anything that has to do with augmented or virtual reality or extended reality, where it can be used, one, for training, two, to fuse some 3D image directly onto the body, and finally, also to have even more imaging and more images and more audio video integration. So I'm not saying it's all so simple, because it requires having not only a headset but a helmet and goggles, and it's not necessarily comfortable when you're in surgery, scrubbed in, and you have not only your leaded glasses, but then another helmet and sound and everything. It's heavy on your head, and it's hot and you sweat. So it's not so simple. But I'm saying that fusion, by all means, is going to become something more common, better understood, and more and more integrated inside those hybrid ORs. Some people have taken it even to another level with holographic imaging, where you can play directly in the OR. You have that headset, and you can click on a virtual button that you activate from that you see in your helmet, and you just click, and boom, here your heart or whatever comes in 3D in front of you, and you can turn it around and show where you want to go and what you're going to do, etc. So it's it right now it's a little bit of a toy. It's still in the development phase, where it's fun and it's really cool. Let's put it this way. But there is going to be really um, an area where it will become useful and more common. It's not particularly expensive. All those things are right at the tip of our fingers. We use them all the time in our computers, in our cell phones. This should not be so difficult to bring in the OR. But then how do you actually use it, make good use of it, um, and do not jeopardize the procedure and, of course, the patient? That may take a while.
Well, Nicola, thank you so much for sharing your time and your hybrid OR expertise today. I think it's been a great conversation so far. We hope our listeners enjoyed the episode of the Roundtable today from Veranex. Our business is really the expertise of our people. We're excited to share their experience and guidance of our people that can provide our healthcare partners in the broader community. So again, I want to thank you all for joining us today, and until next time, thank you.